Hello and welcome to another session of GP ka Jugaad. I'll start again. Hi, this is GP here. Welcome to the session. Today, again, we'll be looking at another set of DILR another set of DILR from an old CAT paper, where we'll see how you can do it faster by using Jugaad, and if you have to do it the normal way, how should it be done. And it's a very, very interesting set that we are looking at. It's a fairly old set, 2005, but a very, very interesting data set. So let's look at the set. But before that, a quick look at something very, very important for you. On 16th November, we'll be doing a CAT before CAT. Okay, if I can use that word, we'll be conducting an open CDC in an abstract test environment, and you can register for it. And remember, CAT is 2 weeks down the line, so in a way, it is a CAT before CAT. Scan the QR code and register for the test. Okay, and let's get down to the session now. Now, what we are talking about is the second section of CAT, which has got 40 minutes and 5 sets of data typically to be done in 2022, with 5 sets of data comprising 22 questions. And this was the pattern for CAT 24, but we expect the pattern to remain the same for CAT 25 also. Okay. Now, when we look at DILR, something that I have talked about multiple times, I'll repeat the same today also, that at the end of the day, when you're looking at DILR, while they are, as it says, while there are 22 questions and there are 5 sets of data, there were 5 sets of data last year. Your percentile, again, is a function of the number of questions you attempt. It does not depend on whether you have completed the set or not. So when you're doing this particular section, especially, you should look at completing the set if it is doable. Otherwise, it should not be that I have to complete the set come what may. Which means as long as I can do 2 to 3 easy questions in each of the sets, is perfectly fine. And it is perfectly fine to leave the difficult ones. The second thing which I want you to again remember is that typically over the years, and here when I say over the years, I'm looking at the last 30-35 years, okay, a 50% attempt, okay, or let's say 50% marks, not attempt, 50% marks is a very good score in CAT. And depending on the level of difficulty of the paper, this means you'll be somewhere between 97.5 to 99.5 percentile. Okay, so the key thing to understand is 50% means half the questions, or in other words, you can afford to leave half the question unattempted and still get a decent score. If it happens to be a very easy paper, a 50% score will get you something like a 50% marks will get you something like a 97.5 percentile. And if it's a fairly difficult paper, that means you'll probably end up at somewhere around 99.5 percentile. Let me look at the last 5 years data to prove this point. Now, if you look at the last 5 years data, okay, if you look at CAT 20 to 24, the number of questions have been as low as 20 to as high as 24 in CAT 2020. Last year it was 22 questions. Okay. And this means the number of sets has also varied from 4 to 5. But I'm not bothered about the number of sets. With 24 questions, where the overall score is plus 3 minus marking schemes plus 3 minus 1, 72 marks, 50% marks. Okay. Let's see what are the 50% marks in each of these. So when you look at 50% marks, we are looking at 36 marks out here, 30 and 30 in CAT 21, 22, 23, and 33 in CAT 24. Now, where would these scores get you in if you got this kind of marks? Okay. What kind of percentile? So in CAT 2020, if you had a score of 36, you would be just above 99 percentile, maybe 99.1, 99.15 percentile. In CAT 21, a 50% marks. In 2021, 30 marks or 50% marks, 50% score in CAT, which is 30 marks, would have got you somewhere between 95 to 99 point. That would be somewhere around 97.5 percentile. Could be as low as 97 also, but typically it could be around 97.5 percentile. the same score, 30 marks in CAT 22 and 23, would have led to a significantly higher score. CAT 22 and CAT 23, CAT 22, 30 marks or 50% marks would have given you maybe 99.1, 99.2 percentile. But in CAT 23, this would have meant something like a 99.5%, 99.4 percentile. So this was 30 marks was something like a 97.4, 97.45 percentile. And 33 marks, 50% score in CAT 24 would have meant you would have got 33 would be somewhere here, again a 97.5. So please remember, your task is to make sure you are able to do at least 50% questions correctly. Obviously, higher you go, the better. And what is the importance of Jugaad? By using these Jugaad methodology that I share with you, you will end up saving typically about 5 to 6 minutes. And even if you don't save 5 to 6 minutes, at least your answer will be more correct, accuracy will be higher, and you will end up doing lesser amount of calculation and tabulation, which means you will be much more fresher and you will allow you to do one extra set of data in this paper. Okay. Now, very, very quickly, as I've said earlier also, Jugaad is a problem-solving approach. It's an approach. It's not a shortcut. It's not a simple technique that you apply or different techniques or different types of data sets. No, it's the overall approach that we are talking about. It is a problem-solving approach, and we focus on using all available information. Okay, and when I say all available information, I mean all available information. Most of students don't look at the information available in the question and the choices. That is something you need to start using also. Secondly, we focus on solving the question. Unfortunately, many students focus on filling the table. We will not worry about filling the table. We will fill the table keeping in mind the question we have to solve or what are we being asked. So to me, it is very, very important that I look at the questions. I see what are the questions asking for, and I'll create a table keeping that in mind. Otherwise, when you start with the table without looking at the question, what happens? You make a huge table, out of which maybe 50-60% is not going to be of any use. Okay? So when you are looking at Jugaad, we are saying we will work as per the requirements of the question, and we will pick up the information, the question and choices also to make our life easier. That's broadly what we are saying out here. Okay, and the approach that we recommend is again DILR. Decipher, identify, layout, resolve. Decipher is what most students try to do. Correctly, incorrectly, properly, improperly is a separate issue, but most people will by and large try to read the data, which is read, understand, decipher, comprehend, whatever you want to call it. So you read the basic data which is given to you, understand it. If you don't understand the basic data, there is no point going forward, because data ही नहीं समझ आ रहा तो आगे solve क्या करोगे? So it is important to understand and comprehend the data before you do anything else. Okay? That's the first thing. Second step, the identification part is what most students miss out on completely. What we mean by identification is we will look at the questions and we'll pick out which are the questions which are likely to be helpful to us. Okay? Which questions are likely to be helpful in terms of choices, which are the questions which are likely to be easy and hence should be attempted, and which are the questions which are likely to be difficult or maybe I need not look at them. Which are the questions which will provide me some extra information to which will help me, let's say, solve the set faster. So these are the things we are looking for. And finally, based on the question, we will do what is called the tabulation of data, or we'll do the layouting. So layout is based on the question requirement or based on the data given, the clues given, that are based on your deciphering or comprehension of the data set, and based on the requirement of the question, you tabulate the data. That is the layout. And unfortunately, as I said, most students tend to jump directly from decipher to layout and then layout to resolve. So most of the students will say decipher, then layout, and then resolve. This is a linear process that we see most students. In our case, that is not linear. Once you have deciphered, the other three are possibly going hand in hand. So it is sometimes it is going to be this, sometimes it is going to be this, sometimes it is going to be this, and it is going to be back and forth between the layouting, resolving, and identifying the information. Okay, so that's broadly what we do. Okay, so layout is tabulation of data, but tabulation of data keeping in mind the question, and resolve is nothing but solve the questions. Okay, and before we proceed further, just a quick reminder. I hope you have downloaded this set that we are going to do now and also solved it. If not, please download the set and solve it. If you have downloaded, great, but not solved it, pause the video. Give yourself 15 minutes, try solving this set yourself. Once you have solved, you can then restart the video and go through the session. There's no point going through this session or my solution without you doing the set yourself. And if you have not downloaded and this is the first session you are attending, then here simple kaam karo. Please scan this QR code. Once you scan this, it will take you to the platform called OpenCAT, which is a resource for free material for CAT preparation. Okay, there's a place where you'll have free material for CAT preparation. When you open this platform, you'll go to what is called GP Ka Jugaad tab. Once you look at the GP Ka Jugaad tab, you will find for DILR, these are the sessions that I have taken up. Okay. And for each of these sessions, you'll find the video. This is the video symbol, and this is the PDF of the session, which means the test that we are taking up, the set that we have to do. So in each of these sessions, you'll find these two for today's session. Obviously, you'll not have the video. Video will get will be available once this session is done. So if you have not done the earlier ones, the process still remains the same. Download the PDF, solve it yourself, then go through the video. Okay. And today's session also, if you have not downloaded or you have not solved it yourself, pause the video, solve it, and then go through the video so that there is a greater amount of learning. Okay. Great. Now let's look at this particular data set from CAT 2005. Okay. Okay. Let's go through the data. The year is 2089. Beijing, London, New York, and Paris are in contention to host the 2096 Olympics. The eventual winner is determined through several rounds of voting by members of IOC, with each member representing a different city. All four cities mentioned are also represented in IOC. All four cities, which is Beijing, London, New York, and Paris, they are also members of IOC, and they are also a part of the voting brigade. Okay. Now, statement 1. In any round of voting, the city receiving the lowest number of votes in that round gets eliminated. The survivor after the last round of voting gets to host the event. So there are 4 cities in all. In the first round of voting, the city which has the lowest votes will get eliminated, will be left with 3. In the next round of voting, the city with the smallest number of votes will get eliminated, will be left with 2. In the next round of voting, the city with the smallest number would get eliminated and you'll get the winner. So out of the 4 cities which are in front of you, you need to eliminate 3 of them. So obviously every round 1 eliminated, so 3 rounds are required. Okay. So that's the first thing. Statement 2. A member is allowed to cast votes for at most 2 different cities. You can vote for maximum of 2 different cities in all rounds of voting combined. So it is perfectly fine to vote for one city in a particular round and change your preference and vote for another city in some other round. Okay. But you can vote for maximum 2 different cities in this way. And hence, a member becomes ineligible to cast a vote in the given round if both the cities he or she voted for in the other round were out of contention. Okay. So if you voted for, let's say, London in round 1, it got eliminated hypothetically. You voted for New York in round 2, and in round 2, New York also got eliminated. You cannot vote now in the third round. If you have voted for 2 different cities and both of them have been eliminated, you are not eligible to vote going forward. Okay. Next, it says a member is also ineligible to cast a vote in a round if the city he or she represents is in contention in that round of voting. So what does that mean? In the first round of voting, London, New York, Beijing, and Paris will not vote. Why? Because their cities are in contention. So in the first round of voting, since all the 4 cities are in contention, they will not vote. In round 2, one of these 4 cities will get eliminated. That eliminated city is now eligible to vote in round 2. The key thing to understand is a member is ineligible to vote if the city he or she represents is in contention. So if it is not in contention, they can vote for it. Okay. Statement 4. As long as the member is eligible, he must vote for any one candidate city in any round. So in one round of voting, you can vote for only one city. You cannot do multiple voting in a single round. Okay. The following incomplete table shows the information on cities that receive the maximum and minimum votes in different rounds. The number of votes cast in their favor and the total votes that were cast in these rounds. So let's have a look at this. What happened in round 1? The city which gets the maximum number of votes is London. City which gets eliminated is New York. So round 1, New York is eliminated. Round 2, Paris gets the highest amount of number of votes, 32. And Beijing gets the minimum, gets eliminated. So the third round will be between which 2 cities? Out of these 4 cities, Beijing, London, New York, Paris, New York and Beijing are out. So the 4th round will be between London, okay, actually London and Paris. So 4th round, sorry, not 4th round, 3rd round, these 2 cities will survive, and one of them will get the chance to host the 2096 Olympics. Okay. Now, just to go back to statement 2, so that there's complete clarity. If you voted for New York in round 1, if a city voted for New York in round 1 and it's voted for Beijing in round 2, it will not be able to vote in round 3. Why? Because in round 1, when you voted for New York, it got eliminated. In round 2, you have an option to vote for another city also, and you decide to vote for Beijing. And in round 2, obviously, Beijing was eliminated in round 2 with the minimum number of votes. What does that mean? In round 3, you cannot vote. So the number of cities which will vote, on the number of voters in round 3 will be lower because of this reason. Second thing, just to repeat, New York got eliminated in round 1. So in round 2, New York will also be able to vote. Beijing got eliminated in round 2. That means in round 3, Beijing will also vote. Right? So this is what the information we have. Okay. Now let's look at the information in the questions. I am not going through this because this I'll typically look at later. But at this point of time, I have done what is called the decipher part. We have understood the data as to what all it entails. Okay. Now let's look at the question and try to identify information from there. What percentage of members from among those who voted for New York in round 1 voted for Beijing in round 2? What are out of these 12 people, what percentage who voted for? Because these are the 12 people who have voted for New York in round 1. Some of them in round 2 have voted for Beijing. How many of them have voted for Beijing in round 2 is what we need to find out. What percentage? Statement question 2. Number of votes cast for Paris in round 1. We don't know, so we'll have to solve this one. But it gives again numbers, and maybe we can eliminate some of these choices. Third one. What percentage of members were among those who voted for Beijing in round 2 were eligible to vote in round 3 and voted for London? Out of these 21 who voted for Beijing in round 2, some of them were eligible to vote in round 3, some were not. So out of those who were eligible to vote in round 3, how many voted for London? Out of these people who were voted for Beijing in round 2, some of them will not be able to vote in round 3 because in round 1 they would have voted for New York. The remaining are eligible to vote in round 3. How many of them voted for London? That percentage is what we need to look at. And question number 4, which of the following statements must be true? Again, that means we need to look at both the statements. But by and large, what question number 3 and 4 are saying, here you may need to do the complete work. Or if not complete, significant amount of work. That also is true for question number 1. Okay. Question number 2 is something which we'll look at using if it is possible. It may be, it may not be. But that's a question I will look at using for myself. Okay. Now, when you look at this data, the table given is of this format. What I want to do is use this table. Because what I need to know is how many votes each of the city has got. Okay. What we are looking for is how many votes has each of the cities got. And based on that, I will be able to do my calculation. Okay. So let's get down to our Jugaad solution. And once I have done the Jugaad solution, I'll give you the other solution also, the regular one. Okay. So let's start. Okay. Out here, question 1, something we remember. Question 1 is about round 1. How many of those who voted for New York in round 1 voted for Beijing in round 2? Question: how many votes for Paris in round 1? This number. Okay. Question 3: what percentage among those who voted for Beijing in round 2 and were eligible to vote in round 3 voted for London? Okay. Okay. So question number 3 is talking about round 2 to round 3 movement, and question number 1 is talking about round 1 to round 2 movement. Okay, so this is what we are looking for. So we'll come back to it later. Okay. But I'll just highlight this so that you don't forget. Typically in the exam, what I do, when I'm taking CLAT, obviously I can't do this in the paper, but what I do is I open the question, I click on the question paper, open the question paper, and from there I pick up the data. And the advantage there is the question, all 4 questions will be visible, all 5 questions, whatever that number is, will be visible to you. So it becomes easy to track. For example, here it is easy to keep a track of the question because they're on the side. The same thing I do in the paper also. Great. So let's get started. Okay. Now, before we do anything, New York got eliminated in round 1. Beijing got eliminated in round 3. So, okay. First question. How many votes did London get in round 2? Out of the total of 83 votes, 32 went to Paris, 21 to Beijing. 32 plus 21 makes it 53. Out of 83, 53 votes went to Beijing and Paris. That means the remaining 30 will go to London. Obviously, New York has been eliminated. So, New York eliminated after round 1. So, no votes for New York in round 1. Similarly, no votes for New York in round 2. Beijing was eliminated in round 2. So, no votes for Beijing in round 3. Okay. Now, second question. How many votes would be there in round 1? From round 1 to round 2, will any member become ineligible to vote? No. To become ineligible, what does happen? From round to 1 to 2, if I have to become ineligible, I need to vote for 2 different cities in 2 different rounds and both of them to be eliminated. So, no voter will become ineligible in round 2. The ineligibility will happen only in round 3. Right? Now, what does that tell you? The only way the number of voters the only change in number of voters from round 1 to round 2 will be New York. New York did not vote in round 1. New York will vote in round 2. So what is this? 83 minus New York is equal to 82. Or let me put it this way: 82 plus New York is equal to 83. Out of the 82 voters who were there in round 1, all of them voted for in round 2 also, and New York, which was eliminated in round 1, became eligible to vote in round 2. So New York also voted. So what is 83? 83 is nothing but 82 voters of round 1 plus New York is what we are looking at. This is 83. Okay, great. Now let's look at the statements. All those who voted for London and Paris in round 1 continued to vote for the same cities in subsequent rounds as long as the cities were in contention. These 30 people who voted for London in round 1 have also voted in London in round 2. Now, anyone, so if there, let me say, if there were X people who voted for Paris in round 1, those X would have voted for Paris in round 2 also. Some of the voters from Beijing or New York may have come here, but these X have definitely remained. Okay? These X have definitely remained. That is the first thing we need to remember. Anyone who is voting for London or Paris in a round continues to vote for them in the subsequent rounds as well. Okay. Okay. 75% of those who voted for Beijing in round 1 voted for Beijing in round 2 as well. 75% of those who voted Beijing in round 1 voted for Beijing in round 2 as well. So, what is 75%? Equal to 3/4. Okay. How many voted for Beijing in round 1? If I say X voted for Beijing in round 1, that means there should be 3/4X. But I have a problem. I normally don't want to work with decimals and fractions. I want to work with integers. So what will I do? I'll say, I'll assume the number of voters for Beijing in round 1 would be 4X. Out of them, 75% 3X continued to vote for Beijing in round 2. Where will the remaining X go? Where will the remaining X go? Can they go to London? No, because London in round 1 had 30 voters. In round 2 also, London has 30 voters. So obviously, all these 30 have continued to vote for London from round 1 to round 2. So these extra voters cannot go to London. They will have to go to Paris. That means Paris has got extra voters, not London. All the people who have voted for Beijing in round 1, some of them have decided to vote for Paris in round 2. None of them have decided to go for London, because otherwise, London would have been more than 30. Right? So no extra votes for London from round 1 to round 2. It only जो उसके पुराने संगी साथी थे, they have continued with London. Okay, perfectly fine. No issues, I hope. Okay. Now, What is important for me out here is when I look at round 1, what is the total number of voters of Paris plus Beijing in round 1? This is 82. 30 plus 12, 42. So Beijing plus Paris should be 82 minus votes of London. Minus votes of London minus votes of Paris, which is 40. Okay. So what should Paris be? Paris should be 40 minus 4x. What does that mean? So Beijing we have taken to be 4x. So Paris has to be 40 minus 4x. Okay. So what is 40 minus 4x? It is a multiple of 4. Okay. If it is a multiple of 4, can you look at question number 2 and eliminate some of the choices? Question number 2. What does it mean? My answer can either be 16 or 24. My answer cannot be 22 or 18. They are wrong because neither 22 nor 18 is a multiple of 4. दो choice निकल गई. Okay. Now, let's look at कॉमन सेंस की तरह से सोचते हैं, थोड़ा लॉजिक लगा के थोड़ा कॉमन सेंस लिखते हैं. आई एम नॉट लुकिंग एट द एक्सट्रीम सिचुएशन. Beijing and Paris 24 and 16. One of these has to be Beijing, one of these has to be Paris. After all, if I say Paris is 24, if I say Paris is 24, then Beijing will be 24 minus 40 minus 24, 16. And if I say Paris is 16, Beijing will be 40 minus 16, 24. The reason these two numbers are given is 16 and 24 are given is because if you make a mistake, you will end up marking the wrong answer, which means Paris and Beijing will get interchanged. Okay. Now, एक बात बताओ यार, voters of Paris are more loyal than anything else. London and Paris. Okay. So all those who voted for Paris in round 1 should have voted in round 2 also. Okay. And Paris is the one which has ultimately gone to round 3. So most probably Paris should be bigger. So I started with that assumption. CAT 2005 में मैंने कहा Paris तो बड़ा होना ही चाहिए यार. So let me look at Paris. So if I take Paris at 24, okay, let me not use this color. Let me use some other color. This is what we needed. So I'm just highlighting and keeping it as it is. But from a color perspective, let me look at some other color. Okay, of writing down. Okay. So if I take Paris at 24, Beijing will be at 16. Okay. Now, what does it say? Out of these 4x people or 16 people who voted for Beijing in round 1, 75% or 3/4 voted for Beijing in round 2. So 3x should be equal to 6. 3x should be equal to 3/4 of 16 or 3x. If 4x is equal to 16, x is equal to 4. Or that means this is equal to 4. Out of the 16 people who voted for Beijing in round 1, 12 continued to vote for Beijing in round 2 and 4 voted for Paris in round 2. Okay. This is what we are working with at this point of time. I'm just erasing this part, not relevant anymore. Okay. Next. Those who voted for New York in round 1 voted either for Beijing or Paris in round 2. Now, out of these 12 people who voted for New York in round 1, out of the 12 people who voted for New York in round 1, what happened? It says 12 people, okay. Yeah, out of these 12 people who voted for New York in round 1, these people either voted for, these 12 in round 2, either voted for Beijing or for Paris. Okay. Either they have voted for Beijing or they have voted for Paris. Okay. Now let me just draw the thing out here. Okay. Okay. Now this CX is equal to 12. Okay. So if Beijing has got total of 21 votes, 12 of those have come from the previous round. These CX12, where have the balance 9 come from? Those 9 cannot come from London. Those 9 cannot come from Paris. So these 9 would have definitely come from. These 9 would have come from New York. So out of the 12 people of New York, 9 have come from. 9 decided to vote for Beijing in round 2. And where will the balance 3 go? Okay. Where will the balance C go? Balance C will go to Paris. So if I look at Paris in round 2, so if I look at round 2, Paris and round 2, Beijing. Okay. Out of the Paris in round 1 was 24 and 16 out here. Out of these 16, what happened? 12 continued with Beijing, and while these 24 continued with Paris, out of these 16, another 4 decided to go to Paris. So out of these 16, 12 continued with Beijing. Okay. And 4 went to Paris. And out of these 12 of New York, after all, Beijing has got 21 votes. If Beijing has got 21 votes in round 2, 12 have continued. What is the remaining? It needs another 9. Where have those 9 come from? Those 9 have come from this one. So New York which had 12 votes in round 1, out of them 9 have gone to Paris. Sorry, 9 have gone to Beijing, and the remaining 3 have gone to Paris. 24 plus 4, 28 plus 3, 21. 31, sorry. And there's one more voter, New York. New York, which was not eligible to vote in round 1, is eligible to vote in round 2, which is why you have 83 voters. So plus New York would also be here because Paris is equal to 32. So what does that mean? Out of the 9 voters of New York, 12 voters, 9 have gone to Paris and 3 have come from, let me say, New York. And plus the New York vote itself. Okay. So 24 of round 1 we continued. These 4 are from Beijing. These 4 have come from Beijing. These 3 are the New York voters of round 1 who decide to vote Paris in round 2. And the last one is New York itself. Plus New York itself. Okay. So that is what makes it total of 32. Okay. Now, please tell me out here. Question number 1. What should your answer be? Okay. Question number 1. What should your answer be? What percentage of members from among those who voted for New York in round 1 voted for Beijing in round 2? Okay. The vote, okay. How many New Yorkers were who voted for, how many were voters who voted for New York in round 1? They were 12. Right? How many of them have voted for Beijing in round 2? 9. So 9 by 12, 75. Right? Now, supposing, 1 minute, yahan tak clear hai na? I'll just rewind and say, supposing we would have decided कि नहीं यार ये गलत है. Okay? कि नहीं यार ये, supposing we would have decided that Paris is 16 and Beijing is 24. What would happen then? That means out of 24, 75%, which is 18, will continue to vote for Beijing. And 4x would be 6. 4x is 24, so x is equal to 6, so 6 will come here. So what will happen? This will become, Paris in round 2 will then become 16 plus 6. Right? And there are 3 people who will come from here. 18 plus 3, 21. Right? So what would the answer of question 1 will be? It will become 3 by 12, which is 25%. It would have become 3 by 12, which is 25%. But 25% option ही नहीं है इसके अंदर. That means this option is of 16 is wrong. Okay. So please understand, had you picked up 16, you'd have still found कि भैया यहाँ पे question number 1 का answer comes out to be 3 by 12. 3 by 12, 25% is not available, तो इसलिए हो ही नहीं सकता. But I started with that saying here, most probably Paris has continued till the last round. Paris should be higher than Beijing. That was an assumption. Maybe a reasonable assumption, but was still an assumption, and it had to be verified. And that assumption got verified जब round question number 1 का मेरा answer 9 by 12, 75% आ गया. Okay. Now let's go back to the. Okay, I just wanted to showcase. अगर आपने had you picked up not 24 but 16, what would have happened? Okay. चलो. So if this is 24 and 16, 3x is equal to 12. And that means from New York, you will get another 9. Okay. That means out of here, you will get 4. 24 was the original one. You will get another 3. from Beijing, and in addition to that, you will get 3 from not another 3, sorry, 4 from Beijing. Na? Yeah, 4x is equal to 16, so x has to be equal to 4. 4 from Beijing, then you will get another 3 from New York and plus New York. Okay, so that's what makes it 32. 24 original, 4 from Beijing, 3 from New York, and the New York vote itself. Okay, आ गया यहाँ पर, चलो ठीक है. Now, any other question pertaining to round 1, round 2? Because so far we have complete clarity of round 1 and round 2. Okay. Question C talks about movement from round 2 to round 3, so we'll come to it later. Okay, next statement. Okay. Let me just, for sake of clarity, also write down something here. Okay. So 9 went to Beijing and 3 went to Paris. Okay, next statement. The difference in the votes cast in the 2 contending cities in the last round was 1. How many votes are there in the last round? 75. 75 means how much? 75 means if the last was, if the difference between the 2 is 1, that means the votes of the winner in round 2, round 3 will be 38 and 37 will be the votes of the loser. That means this 75 will be 38 plus 37 for the winner and the loser. Okay. So the winner will get 38 votes, the loser will get 37 votes. Which is going to win, London or Paris, we don't know as yet. Okay. Next statement. 50% of those who voted for Beijing in round 1 voted for Paris in round 3. 50% of those who voted for Beijing in round 1 voted for Paris in round 3. Now, let us look at this item again. 4x people voted for Beijing in round 1, right? Out of them, 2x have to vote for Beijing in round 2. Round 3. As per the statement, what does that mean? That means if I look at, okay, let me take another color. That means now if I look at round 3, I should get another x. Out of these 4x, x has already happened in round 2. So in addition, so when I'm looking at Paris in round 3, what is happening is, first of all, out of these 32 people, 4 had already voted for Paris in round 2. Out of the 4x or 16 people of Beijing, 8 have to vote for Paris in round 3. Out of them, 4 have already voted, so there will be another 4 which will come here. So out of the 21 voters of Beijing, 4 are coming here. So what does it become? This becomes 32 plus 4, 36. So 32 voters from round 2, 4 additional voters from Beijing to Paris. 4 came in round 2, 4 additional will come in round 3. Okay. Now, what next? What should we do now? That 34 plus 2, 36. But Paris has to be either 37 or 38. Any other voter available? Yes. Beijing itself is a voter in round 3. Na? Beijing itself is a voter in round 3, so plus 1. So what is Paris going to become? 32 plus 4, 36 plus 1, 37. So maximum it can get is 37 votes. Okay. Okay. So maximum it can get is 37 votes. So that means who's going to be the winner? London should get 38 votes. Paris should get 37 votes. Okay. Now, what is question number 3? What percentage of members among those who voted for Beijing in round 2 and were eligible to vote in round 3 voted for London? How many voters will not be eligible to vote in round 3? These 9. These 9 voted for New York in round 1 and voted for Beijing in round 3, so they are not eligible. So out of 21 voters of round 2, how many are eligible? 21 minus 9 equal to 12 voters are eligible to vote in round 3. Out of these 21 voters of Beijing in round 2, 21 minus 9, 12 voters are eligible to vote in round 3. So that means for question number 3, the denominator should be 12, which means choice choose wrong. You cannot get a 38.1. You can get 1/3, 1/6, 1/12, 2/3, some that kind of a number. So वो तो गलत है. Okay. Now coming back to it, okay. Out of these 21 people, 9 are out, so he left with 12. Out of these 12, what has happened? 4 have voted for Paris. If 4 have voted for Paris, where have the other 8 votes got? They have gone to London. Okay. So that means out of these 21, what is London? London got 30 votes in round 2. In addition to that, there were 8 more voters who voted for Beijing in round 2 and came to Paris and voted for London in round 3. Okay. Out of these 12 people, if 4 have moved to Paris, the remaining 8 will continue with Beijing, will obviously move to London. So London will become 38. So what should the answer be? 8 by 12, 2/3, 66.67%. Question number 4. Which of the following statements must be true? True on all cases. IOC member from New York must have voted for Paris in round 2. Yes. IOC member from New York has voted for Paris in round 2. Perfectly fine. Statement 2. IOC member from Beijing voted for London in round 3. No. IOC member from Beijing voted for Paris in round 3. Otherwise, Paris will not become 37. Paris will be stuck at 36. But since we needed the total to be 37, we can clearly say, okay, not an issue as such. We can clearly say that the answer to this should be this is right and this is wrong. If this is wrong, what should be the correct answer? Only one. Okay. So effectively, what we started off with, we said for Paris in round, we started with question number 2. My answer for Paris had to be a multiple of 4. My answer for round 1 votes of both Paris and Beijing has to be a multiple of 4. So 16 and 24 में से एक ही हो सकता था. I went with 16 because common sense told me that most probably Paris should be the bigger one. Okay, logically both can be there, but Paris should be the bigger one. So I chose Paris to be 20. Had I chosen Paris to be 12, to be 16, had I chosen Paris to be 16, I would not have got the answer to question 1. That would have told me कि ये गलत है, and I would have come back here. But logically, it seemed to me that this should be right, so I picked this up. Based on that, we found, so we went with 24 and 16, and then we said, out of this, 3x will come here, and x will come here. Okay, this was 4x, and not only that, I'll get another x people out here in round 3, because out of the 4x people who voted for Beijing in round 1, 2x have to vote in round 3 for Paris. And out of these 2x, x have already come in round 2, so another x will come here. So that is how we started out the whole thing. Okay. Now let's look at the conventional method. So जुगाड़ लगा के बिना ज़्यादा calculation की हमने कर लिया है. Now when you look at this particular data set, if you have to do it without the जुगाड़ solution, what will you do? Okay, so you should start with this being 82, this being 30. Now, the question you should then ask yourself is, why has this reduction happened? Why has 83 become 75? Why have the number of votes from round 2 to round 3 reduced? In round 2, there are a total of 83 voters. What will happen in round 3? Okay. In round 3, in addition to the 83 voters of round 2, okay, there will be one more voter which will be added, which is Beijing. Beijing will also be eligible to vote in round 3. In round 2, it was not eligible, so this effectively becomes 84. Okay. But round 3 has got only 75 voters. That means remove those voters who voted for, there will be voters who voted for New York in round 1 and Beijing in round 2. Right? Let me say that is X. So if there are X voters who voted for New York in round 1 and Beijing in round 2, what will that be? It will be 84 minus 75, which is 9. What does that mean? Out of these 12 voters, 9 voted for Beijing and 3 voted for Paris. Right? This is what, now this logic, if it strikes you, great. Then ये जुगाड़ की जरूरत नहीं है. But in that year also and later on also, whenever we have done this set, most students fail to pick this up. And which is why यार choice सामने रखी तो मैं उसको क्यों ना use करूं. Okay? In fact, CAT जब दे रहा था मेरे को तो ख्याल ही नहीं यार ये देखना है. My starting, okay, my answer should be a multiple of 4. ये गलत है. And between the two, I chose this and got the answer accordingly. But yes, if you want to do the conventional way, this is the logic you should be able to understand. That in round 3, there are 83 voters, 75 voters. Sorry, round 3 has got 75 voters. Round 2 had 83 voters. From round 2 to round 3, 83 voters of round 3 plus Beijing makes it 84. Minus 9 voters have to be eliminated to get to 75. That means there are 9 voters who voted for New York in round 1 and Beijing in round 3. Now you can start working accordingly once you have established this one. That. Okay, so chalo, ye ho gaya hai. Now, so if 9 have come from here, what does that mean? How many should have come from top? 12. So 75% of those who voted for Beijing in round 1 voted for Beijing in round 2 also. So out of the 4x people who voted for Beijing in round 1, 3x have voted for Beijing. Let me just create some space and थोड़ा खुला लिख देते हैं. Out of the 4x voters who were there in Beijing, 3x voted for Beijing in round 2 also. And as per the question, 9 voters who voted for New York in round 1 have voted for Beijing in round 2 because of this reduction. That means 3x should be equal to 12 or 4x equal to 16. If 4x is 16, Paris should be 24. Right. And if this is 24, round 2 will become 24 plus how many? Another 4 coming from Beijing plus 3 from New York plus New York itself. 3 from New York plus New York itself. So that made it 32. Okay. And then next round will be this 32 is already there. Okay. Plus how many? Another 4 would come here. Because from 4x, 2x have to be voting for, out of these 4x voters of Beijing of round 1, 8 or 2x should be voting for Paris in round 3. 4 are already there, another 4 comes, plus Beijing. Makes it 36, 37, and this is 38. Okay. So the conventional way is also I've showed you, but if conventional construct, फर्क नहीं पड़ता, choices उठा के हो जाता है. And as I said, I had actually done that in CLAT 2005. Okay. So I hope this helps you. And as we close the session, there's just a quick thing for you. A couple of programs available to you for last minute preparation, helping you ensuring that you are very well prepared. So if you're interested in these programs, you can definitely scan and take it forward from there. Okay, and yes, bilkul ignore mat karna. I don't know how many of you applied for that. My session, all of you should apply. देखो ZAD पक्का अप्लाई करना है. XLRI Jamshedpur is as good as ABCL FMS. Okay, let me add Excel and ISB also. To me, these institutes are at par. These are at par. इसमें सोचना ही नहीं है. If you are taking CAT and you are targeting in the top IIM, they should be taking that and targeting XLRI also. In fact, XLRI NCR campus are rated higher than MDI and let's say even IFT and Symbiosis and MAT, etc. So XLRI NCR campus just a shade below these institutes. Very, very marginal difference. 19-20 का फर्क है. And इसीलिए तुमको देना जरूरी है. So if you have not done it, please do it. Online classes for other Snap and IPMAT I leave to your discretion. But there's that पक्का देना है. IPMAT Snap I'm leaving it to your discretion because some of you would have decided कि इस institute के नीचे नहीं जाना. Otherwise, both these exams provide you go to colleges. NMIMS Mumbai is a great college to go to. Symbiosis, most of them are good, especially SIBM Pune and SCMHRD again are very, very good. So you should look at these also depending on the kind of scores you are getting. Okay. Chalo. And yes, in case of you need any other help with your preparation, feel free to connect me. My phone number is 9811555160. Email ID is gp@careerlauncher.com. Okay. And yes, you can connect with me whenever you need to with respect to your preparation. So that's it from my side. All the best and see you again in the next session.